Here on To the Bamboo Curtain continues our look at the controversial police force who tread the Hong Kong beat.
The heart of Hong Kong has always been Victoria Harbour, the sea that flows into it, the colony's lifeblood. People fish in it, trade across it, live on it and die in it. The men who patrol it are part of the largest marine police force in the world. Hong Kong's territorial waters are a back door into the colony. When they're not coast guards, ambulances, panda cars or traffic wardens, each of these patrol boats is a border guard on constant lookout for illegal immigrants. In a colony as delicately balanced as this one, the government is determined that illegal immigrants won't be allowed to rock the boat.
Okay, let's go.
Refugees aren't a new phenomenon to Hong Kong's marine police. But these are. These people are not Chinese from the communist mainland, they're Vietnamese from Da Nang. Incredibly, they've sailed over 500 miles in this. 23 men, women and children in a 20-foot open boat, crudely adapted to make it unsinkable. They were picked up this morning as they floundered exhausted into Hong Kong's territorial waters. For the last 12 days, adults and children alike have suffered salt spray, blistering sun and storms in an almost suicidal bid for freedom.
When did they last eat? A few days ago, because they only say that they are finding a few days they put on board. They only put on at the sea about in 12 days.
For 3 days, the grown-ups haven't eaten. They gave their rations to the children.
The last few weeks, it's been a build-up. It's gone from 2 or 3 coming in on ocean-going ships to 30 or 40 coming in on their own boats. A few speak Chinese and a few speak French, and the one we had the other evening, a few spoke English, but unless we have someone who speaks Vietnamese, we're not going to get very much out of them.
Since the beginning, immigrants, legal and illegal, have been both the scourge and the salvation of Hong Kong. A pool of cheap labor slogging it out in factories and sweatshops has made the colony rich. But in the 30 years since Mao took over in China, the pool's become a lake. To the embarrassment of Peking, waves of illegal immigrants have helped push the colony's population from 500,000 to 4.5. To the embarrassment of Whitehall, this has created some appalling social conditions for the Chinese in Hong Kong. for these Vietnamese, this won't be journey's end. Hong Kong doesn't want them, and fortunately they don't want Hong Kong. They'd much rather go west, preferably to the United States. But they will be allowed to stay here for 6 months. During this time, the International Red Cross will take up their case and try to persuade the Americans to have them. For the time being, they're the responsibility of Marine Police. The first problem is language. The only Vietnamese speaker in the force is a bit bewildered and camera shy. He's from Special Branch.
Well, don't start questioning them yet. Just sit down with them and talk to them and get their cooperation, okay? Just try and make friends with one or two of them. Talk to them in Vietnamese and see how they are, how they feel, whether they're hungry, that sort of thing. Don't start taking any statements yet. That will come later on when you find out who they are, what they're doing, that sort of thing.
Ta sợ lắm. Bán một người 3 kg gạo một tháng.
Có nhiều người là cũng biết cái đường đi.
Không biết đường. Mấy người tôi đâu có biết.
It'll take 3 languages to get all the facts. Vietnamese to Cantonese, Cantonese to English. Not that things are complicated. When you're at rock bottom, very little matters except the basics. Hong Kong's immigrant problem is a typical Chinese puzzle. Many have pierced the bamboo curtain only to come to conditions like this, but still they come. Peking won't admit that there's any border to cross, but still she guards it heavily. Nowhere is the uneasy diplomatic doublethink more evident than in the little town of Chateau Coq. Here the border with China runs right down the high street. The town lies at the foot of China Mountain on the edge of Mears Bay. You can't stroll over China Mountain into Hong Kong, for the border and the town are in a closed area, accessible only to those who live there. Chateau Coq is a sensitive town. In 1967, the Chinese opened fire across the high street, killing 5 policemen.
Well, this is the funny thing about this place. A villager living on Hong Kong side will probably have a brother or a mother or somebody else living on the China side. Mm-hmm. And because of this, they move around within the village. No, actually, there's a guard normally sitting in that guardhouse over there. But he might be doing a patrol at the moment, so we're not lucky at the moment. But what we do, we don't go into the nullah, although that's in British territory. We stay this side of this wall. We could, in effect, go onto the path on the other side as long as we stayed on this side of the boundary stones, but we don't do that, obviously. We just stay well over this side. There's no point of going over.
All those children just standing over there are actually standing in China, not in Hong Kong territory.
They're in China. They wander across at will. It's one of the Chinese guards who just come out, the border guards. Yeah. They have them in Macau and in Hong Kong, and they change over duties. Their purpose is mainly to maintain control on their side.
Do they ever come over the Hong Kong side, the Chinese guards?
No, they're very good. They stay on their side and look after them. They don't cross over at all.
So we don't have any dealings?
We don't have any communication whatsoever. No, don't try and get chatty, otherwise they might get a bit upset. We get on with our job, they get on with their job. Any approach that would have to be made would be at a much higher diplomatic level, and that would be it.
Yeah.
That's a community hall on the other side.
Is it used a lot, or not?
Not really, no. Before the previous chairman, Chairman Mao Zedong died, there used to be some readings and music coming from there, but since his death it's been very quiet.
And that's the second border stone over there?
Yeah, the second border stone, then you see the dog leg. We come across along here, along practically the border, and you go straight up there on the dog's leg, yeah. And you get up to the third stone.
So the intention is to keep the village as normal as possible, run it as a normal village?
What it is, it runs itself. I mean, the policing side of it is very limited. We have very few troubles. Mainly because of the closed area, you'll find you don't get your crime that you get down in town, where you probably have your robbers or your break-ins. You wouldn't get it here, because they'd have to be strangers to the area. Well, the army, they're presently here in the closed area. They do a lot of action against illegal immigrants. Well, that's the main task in life. These premises here, these are the fairly new. They're restaurants mainly, stores. They're backing onto China. Behind there, if you went through the back door there, you'd step into China. The dogs here, they're a bit vicious down here. There's a particular vicious dog down here. I wouldn't go too near if you'd avoid him. This is more or less a cul-de-sac. You see, you come down here. If you don't know the area very well, you're coming down here now, you end up at that premises and you can't go any further. No, yes, this here, Adrian, is in China. You get a sense, it's a funny feeling really. There's nothing to differentiate China from Hong Kong. But you get this feeling, yeah, with the road, and you've got the border stones, the boundary stones. But you always get this feeling that when you get into that road, you can sense the difference. There is a sort of foreboding about it. I say, don't just walk willy-nilly. There's a gentleman over there in China. And this road here, we've got boundary stones and so on.
There's the boundary stone is up there over by.
Yeah, you've got the boundary stone next to the tree. Yeah.
So the border runs from almost near where we are, right up there.
You get quite a lot of movement across the street as well. But as I say, the only time we generally come in here is when we have some sort of action, regards fireworks or summons to serve. I mean, people commit the offences downtown. They have to have a summons to serve, so we bring them up. Again, I don't want to. Those gentlemen in the white and blue are in actual fact. Those chaps in the white and blue don't keep looking at them. The chaps in the white and blue are the local policemen. They look after the sort of civilian side problems over there.
They're not military at all?
No, they're not really military, no. Although they do carry arms when they need to. Anyway, what we'll do now is I'll take you to another part of the area of the village and show you another area of the road, Chunging Street, another stretch of the road, Chunging Street, which leads up to, there's some of our gentlemen round there. I don't know if we should go up there anymore.
I think it's getting rather delicate.
No, it's a bit further down. No, I think we've got to just get a bit up here, and there's one or two other people down there in between. We can have a look further up, perhaps. No, there's a small group down there, and if they start getting fidgety, they have been known to come across. Yeah, 67 we had the disturbances there. Several policemen were killed up here at that time. This was at the police post. It was badly damaged. It was very flimsy sort of structure compared with the present one. Now, this is the interesting part. As you see, Chunging Street runs up here. We've seen all the boundary stones further down there, going from 1 to 7. Yeah. And there's the last boundary stone up there. Now, this is interesting. You can't really see the premises because it's behind the series of trees and that grey building. But just beyond there is the customs house. That's the old maritime customs I mentioned before. And the bridge, you see, there's a river flowing under that. Yeah. And if you carry on up there, past the boundary stone, over the bridge, you're in China. So don't go too far.
Right, step lightly, yeah.
And that's about it. I think if we move away now.
Chief Inspector Taylor has a delicate diplomatic job policing a town divided by a border that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because the Chinese say it doesn't. To them, Hong Kong is part of China. Yet the non-existent border is patrolled by very real guards with very real guns. And apart from the local villagers, anyone trying to cross the non-existent border would certainly find his way blocked. The best way into Hong Kong, if you haven't a visa, is by sea. Mears Bay is the freedom swimmers' favorite route. It's only a mile across at its narrowest, but the currents are strong. To the Chinese, the water is cold and there are sharks.
We've had a lot of evidence of shark attacks against illegal immigrant swimmers. Some pretty gruesome photographs of bodies we have found. These photographs we've sent off to Australia and America to shark experts, and they have confirmed that people have been bitten by sharks. But still, this doesn't deter the illegal immigrant swimmer in his desire to get to the bright lights of Hong Kong. Well, this is pretty standard equipment used by illegal immigrants crossing Mears Bay, or freedom swimmers. You can see this is a rubber-type dinghy constructed out of surgical bed sheeting, strong adhesive supports here. In addition, they use a rubber tubing, which is very similar to an inner tube of a bicycle. It isn't quite, as you can see, it's a little bit bigger than a bicycle inner tube. This, of course, they just wrap round their shoulders to keep them afloat. In addition, they have a sort of make-learn life jacket. It's a little canvas jacket with pockets, and inside the pockets they put contraceptives. Let's see if we can find one here. Now, there's some in here, and these contraceptives have come out of it. We arrested 3 illegal immigrant swimmers the other night in this particular craft.
We joined a marine patrol heading for Mears Bay. They're looking specifically for illegal immigrants. Last year, they picked up 79. But the police are only the first line of defense. The second is the Army's Gurkhas scattered around the beaches and the hills of this area. It's unlikely that anyone would attempt the crossing in broad daylight, but it's not uncommon for junks to have picked up swimmers during the night and to ferry them to a remote island. Junks are searched as a matter of routine.
你哋一隻船牌一邊呢，一隻拍紅火，一隻拍綠火。
In their search for illegal immigrants, the police work closely with the Royal Navy. Our partner on tonight's patrol is this converted minesweeper, one of 5 that are all that remains of the Royal Navy east of Suez. As we cruise around waiting for dusk to come and the search to begin in earnest, our captain, Chief Inspector Spencer Fu, explains how the police do detect people in the water after dark.
If they are on the rafts, we have a better detection of them on our radar. Otherwise, we will have to rely on our night observation device, which is a light intensifier telescope, which will give us a very good vision of the sea surface, even in the dark with the light of stars only. So, from our experience, they normally come across the nearest the Hong Kong coast, so it will be somewhere from here or even from here.
As dusk falls, we begin the sweep of the Freedom Swimmers Bay. The Royal Navy are at their station, and between the 2 boats, the bay's been divided into sections, which each will patrol. It's important that each knows where the other is supposed to be, since we'll both be drifting along with engines barely ticking over and all lights doused. A collision would be embarrassing. It's hard to see anything except the local fishing boats with their bright lights hanging from the stern, luring the shoals of fish. The ship's light intensifier isn't designed for taking pictures through, but with the eye it gives a remarkably clear view of the sea. Suddenly there's excitement. They've spotted something.
What does it look like? It's not moving, that's for sure, at the speed.
Can you see it now by moonlight?
I can only see a dark shadow. Seems to be quite big. That's what's doubting me. Can you please check the distance? How far away from the city coast? something like a rubber floating thing. No, it's paddling. 2 people paddling quite hard. Yeah, we got them.
Roger. At this stage, you'll only have 1 Gemini.
In fact, all we'd got was the Royal Navy paddling around in a rubber dinghy.
What happened to your engine?
At least it proved that we weren't asleep, but it was the one and only alarm of the night. At dawn, we were 7 miles from the Chinese coast, heading back to base. No one had really expected to find freedom swimmers on the first night at sea, but what happens now is quite amazing and took everyone by surprise. Two boys and a girl, and we almost ran over them. You might have expected delight, even joy, from the police. After all, this is why they're here. Not so. There's a strange atmosphere of sadness, almost regret. Most of the crew have friends or relations who've come from China. Some may even have made this swim themselves. This is the girl. During the swim, this man was sick and had to be helped by the other 2. They were 10 hours in the water because of his condition and a current which carried them 8 miles out to sea. After a shower, hot drinks and a change of clothing provided by the crew, the illegal immigrants are ready to face some questions from Chief Inspector Fu. But first, there's still that key question that they have for him.
唔係點解要減到即係成10年以後唔會話好似上個禮拜啊咁樣？
即係咧好多嘢咧不食你食嘅，人又越嚟越大啦嘛，社會環境同住你咁，原來即係有時唔到你咁。
So where did they get the flotation pillows from? Did they carry them with them along the journey, or did they find them somewhere?
地鐵買嘅呢，定話呢啲日常用品嚟嘅？
有得買。
有得買嘅。They bought them from the place where they come from.
What are their occupations?
呢啲冚唪唥都係 They are all residents of a commune called Waiyang, and they have been traveling for 8 days before they get to the coastline. As soon as they arrive at the coastline, they get into the water and started the journey across to Hong Kong. According to what they said, that they went into the water at 21:30 hours last night. The time we picked them up is about 06 this morning. It means that they have been in the water for nearly 10 hours. And what accounted for this delay, as claimed, is because one of the three was feeling sick when getting into the water and have to be helped by the other two. So this delayed their journey in swimming across. They claimed that they have to pass through a number of villages and they have to sneak through them in order to avoid being found out. They can only walk in the night and have to hide in the daytime. During their 8 days journey, they have only some fried rice, biscuits, and milk that they carried with them. And they claim that they hope they will have a better life in Hong Kong, and that is their aim in making the journey over. We're bringing them to the nearest pier where they will be handed over to the land escorts to be taken to a detention camp where they will be further processed for final decision as to their fate.
Those were 3 young kids that had been swimming in the water for a long time, walking for a long time, and you know, but I don't think they know, that they're probably going to be returned to mainland China. Does that bother you at all?
To a certain extent, I would say yes, everyone would feel sorry for them. But in picking up them, I feel this is our duty. And what happens afterwards will be something to be decided.
All right, we did our job. We picked them up. However, as Spencer said, you do feel remorse for them that they have paddled all this way and got so close and not quite so close.
Unless there are very special compassionate grounds, they'll be sent back to China, where by all accounts they'll do a period of corrective training down on the farm. The irony is, if they had evaded the police and made it to Kowloon, they would almost certainly have been allowed to stay. Man Kam To, an exclusive border post in the closed area. Every day at 3 o'clock, when there's something to deliver, a blue police van crosses into communist China. Inside this van are the illegal immigrants we are handing back. Such is the unwritten agreement that exists between Whitehall and Peking to preserve the status quo of the colony. You might wonder why no illegal immigrants from communist China are granted political asylum in Hong Kong. The official answer is, to date, no one has asked for it.